Hello and welcome to a highlight episode of the Tejano Traveler. Today we are on the Texas Forts Trail and we're going to take a look at some of the highlights there is to do while you're taking yourself through the trail. This trail is a pretty circular trail. It starts off from Brady and it pretty much goes around in a circle and ends up back in Brady, and then you can head back home. For me it'd be Austin. And here I am at the geographic center of Texas, which is a point where if you stand right there, technically you are in the center of Texas, which feels pretty cool. So head on over to Brady and then head north and you will be there. This trail is called the Texas Forts Trail, so along this trail you will see plenty of forts, starting with Fort Mason, which is in Mason, Texas, if I'm correct. And it's actually the least put together of the forts. It's just pretty much just one building on top of a hill. You can see it, go there, ponder life. But it is, like I said, on top of a hill, and you can see the rest of the Texas country land down there. It was also General Lee's last outpost. And then we have the Old Yeller statue at the library. Old Yeller, that famous book and movie, does take place in this area, so I kind of like that they have that little statue there for him. Beware, he still has rabies, it's uncurable. And then along one of the highways you just see this big map of Texas. You can also go to San Saba, Texas, which has a nice little duck pond, and it's actually been converted into a nice little beach for kids and people to go there. There's an old water wheel there that is pretty cool. And then just north of that you can head over to the suspension bridge, which still stands. It's a one-lane bridge, so it'll take turns and it kind of wobbles, so it's kind of weird, but it's still definitely worth going to go check it out. Then we see our oldest fort, Presidio San Luis de las Amarillas, or Presidio San Saba, or Misión San Saba, which is started by the Spanish, but was destroyed by the Comanche, who thought that the Apaches were trying to get one up on them, so they went there, destroyed it, and that started off a series of wars that lasted about 100 years. So if you can go there, you can see the ruins of the old Spanish Empire still struggling to survive. Now we're on to Fort McKevitt State Historic Site. This is a pretty big grounds. They've got plenty of the buildings there, which is pretty cool to go look at. You get a feel of what fort life used to be back then. You get to see the ruins and then some of the updated buildings, so you get a little bit of both. You get to see how they lived back then, and how this string of forts along the Texas frontier helped the people who were pioneers or were heading over on trails over to California and other places. Then we get to experience the San Angelo art scene, which is full of murals and cool little art projects that you can see as you're roaming around the town. Plus, they've got some areas just specifically for new pop and modern art, which is kind of cool. Also, you will see this sheep everywhere, and it's colored in different ways and styles, which I kind of like. I like how each town has a little something for them to be artistic. In San Angelo, you can also visit the Fort Concho National Historic Site, which used to be the fort that's created by the U.S. Army in order to protect a lot of the pioneers and the frontier from the ferocious Comanche, which was one of the last tribes to give in to U.S. aggression. You can see a lot of the buildings that are still standing. And then, interestingly enough, San Angelo is the home to the International Water Lily Collection, where they crossbreed different lilies and create new ones, which I always thought was kind of weird and cool. Like, why San Angelo out of all places? But it's pretty cool that it's here. Just make sure you go there during the right time, because if not, there all you really see is lily pads, and those aren't too interesting. But a sleeper park that is here is the San Angelo State Park. It's divided into 2 sections. It's pretty big, and it doesn't get a lot of mentions, but it's a pretty nice park to go and hike to. There's some dinosaur tracks, supposedly. I'm not sure if I found them. I found something, but I'm not sure if they were dinosaur tracks. Hopefully they were. But now I'm on the south unit, where you can go up to the cliffs and overlook the valley below, which is a pretty cool sight. As always, make sure to take plenty of water and a map, and cover your head, because you will die out there if given the opportunity. Now we're on to Fort Chadbourne, which is another Texas fort that was built in order to combat the Comanche. You can see some graffiti in some of the old buildings, but they take you around in a little golf cart to check out the fort. It's pretty cool seeing some of the old buildings. As I said, there are plenty of forts in this area, because this used to be the frontier back in the mid 1800s. So they've made these forts in order to defend from Native American attacks. And that's why you will see a lot of cannons and forts on this trip. Now we make it over to Abilene, Texas, which is one of the biggest frontier towns on this Texas Forts Trail. You can go to the Grace Museum, which always showcases some interesting artists. And then go to the TCU campus to see the Jacob's Dream statue, which is Jacob's ladder from the Bible. That's where you see angels going up some mysterious ladder. If you're into military history, make sure to check out the Memorial Museum for the 12th Armored Division. It's pretty cool. It's got a lot of photographs, a lot of artifacts, and a lot of dioramas, and I love dioramas. It's one of my favorite things to look at when I go to historic museums. Abilene also calls itself the storybook capital of the world, and in order to celebrate that, they have 2 parks where they have statues of children's books such as Dr. Seuss, and then some other well-known ones. Whichever one you end up going to, they're both pretty much nearby each other, so you can go and have fun, take your kids, relive some childhood memories of reading some of these books, and then visit the museum that they have there that focuses on this art. Abilene is also home to Frontier Texas, which is a pretty cool museum that talks about the Texas frontier and how the buffalo was important and all the different battles and wars that were fought during this time. Abilene also has a pretty cool family zoo. We call it a family zoo because it's not too big. You can take your kids and they can get their fill of seeing animals up close and everything without having to walk miles and miles and miles. So it's pretty cool. You can take your kids, and once they have enough, you can leave and not feel like, oh, we've only seen like half of the park. No, you can pretty much see the whole park in just a couple hours. So that's pretty cool for families, I guess. Close by is Abilene State Park, which has red dirt, and once you catch it just right, the red dirt looks like purple, and it's very disorienting because you're not used to seeing purple water, which is a pretty cool effect. And right outside of Abilene is Fort Phantom Hill. We call it Phantom Hill because it looks like a hill, but it's not. So yes, it's a phantom. It's pretty much just full of old chimneys that have resisted time and weathering and history. So if you go there, check out the chimneys, check out the fort, learn some history, dance a little, be silly, and just remember part of Texas history and why it's important and how it was that our state grew to be into what it is nowadays. Then you can get your own golf cart if you head over to Fort Griffin State Historic Site, which is a fort up on a hill or a bluff, and you can see some of the old ruins, and since they're pretty scattered, they give you a golf cart. So make sure you get there early so that you can claim your own golf cart, although not many people visit it. When I was there was only 2 people. So I'm still happy that they keep these parks open for people who are curious, because people are always going to be curious, and it's always good to preserve history. And here we're on top of Government Hill. You can check out the other side of the park on the other side of the road, which is more of your traditional classic park with canopy and such. Now we're at Fort Belknap, which is one of the smaller forts, but it's all encompassed within these walls. There's an old commissary that they've turned into a museum, but I wasn't able to go in because they were out for lunch, which I am all for it. People should go for lunch, because if you ain't gonna eat, then what are you living for? They got some of the old buildings, and they've turned it into a nice little local park where people can go play sports, hang out, have cookouts, parties, spend time with the family, and remember history. Then we have Possum Kingdom State Park, and the first thing you need to know about Possum Kingdom State Park is that I saw no possums. Why were there no possums if it's a Possum Kingdom? No delegation meeted me at the door, so I don't know what's going on. Need the name change. But it's a pretty cool park. The lake is apparently pretty big, so only one small section is dedicated to the park, but it still has some pretty nice little trails and picnicking opportunities, plus birds. You can always see birds at parks, so that always excites me. Plus you can do all your traditional water fun whenever you get there. Next we have Fort Richardson State Historic Site, which is the last fort on this trip. They've got a useless pond, which you can't go into, which I was sort of okay with. And then you get to drive over to the fort site where they have some of the buildings. You can go in them. There's some fake rifles. You can be silly and dumb, but not too silly or dumb to get kicked out. But it's still kind of cool to see how they used to live back then, and check out the barracks and all that kind of stuff. Some of the buildings are in ruins, so be prepared to see that. And some of them are in pretty good condition, such as this one here. I think this was the hospital, if I remember correctly. Then you head over to Mineral Wells, which is one of the smaller towns that you see there. There's the old Baker Hotel, which will hopefully be renovated soon. And it's the home of Crazy Water. That's where it gets the name Mineral Wells. But I drank the water and it just tastes like water. I'm pretty sure the health benefits are there, I just couldn't taste them. Then of course you get Lake Mineral Wells State Park, which is one of my favorite parks in the area. It's got all these cracks on the Texas ground. You get to go through them. They're not caves, they're crevices. There's cliff walls from the ground here that split up during something, either an earthquake or something happened here, obviously. But it's a pretty cool Texas park. I spent most of the time here in this area, in this little nook, just hiking and walking around and enjoying the nature. And now we're going to finish with some small towns on the trail, such as Dublin, Texas. Dublin, Texas is the home of the old Dublin Dr. Pepper, which is now a defunct product because of some weird rule that they had, which is sad because Dublin Dr. Pepper was the bomb. But they do bottle their other drinks now, which I was able to get me a 6-pack of. The best one is cherry limeade, of course, but the soda one isn't that bad either because it's made out of real sugar, Dublin sugar. Then in Hico, Texas, we have some Billy the Kid stuff. They have a museum there dedicated to him because apparently Billy the Kid never died. In New Mexico, he died right there in that spot as an old man. So all that Pat Garrett stuff was fake. Who knows? They even have his grave right outside the town. Is it real? Who knows? Then we have the Robert E. Howard House in Cross Plains, Texas, which is the home of one of my favorite authors ever. He wrote Conan, Call of Atlantis, and Solomon Kane, which were awesome stories to read, awesome pulp stories, which were very, very influential to a lot of science fiction and pulp writers. He also died in that very same house. And we have Old Rip in Eastland, Texas. The legend goes that he was interred in a cornerstone, and then when they opened it up 30 years later, there was Rip still alive. And then he died of pneumonia a year later. But they have his body there embalmed. And they're pretty proud of their Old Rip, so it's definitely nice to go and check out because it's kind of weird. Also, there's this big soup can, which is awesome. I like big things. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this trip along the Texas Forts Trail. Make sure to check out my other videos, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.